Hey, everybody, Saul Marquez with the Outcomes Rocket. I want to welcome you back to today's podcast. Today, I'm really excited because I have an amazing healthcare leader with us. Her name is Alexandra Drane, Alex Drane. She's the co-founder and CEO of ARCHANGELS. She co-founded Eliza Corporation, acquired by HMS, Engage with Grace, and 3 other companies, all bootstrapped, by the way. A serial entrepreneur. She's also a cashier on leave for Walmart and believes that communities are the front line of health, that caregivers are our country's greatest asset, and that we need to expand the definition of health to include life. And I could not agree more. Alex, welcome to the podcast. So glad you're with us.
I'm so happy to be here, Sal.
Yeah. And look, incredible story that you have. I'm so glad you're here. You were just sharing that you had an accident. You're alive.
Oh, I had a great adventure.
And we were reflecting before we hit record on how important it is to reflect on our own health.
I mean, I think for all of us who work in healthcare, we see examples every single day of just how vital and important feeling good is. And when we have that gift, we got to run with it. And I had the great adventure of my car was hit by another car and broke 2 bones in my leg, ended up with 2 broken bones in my wrist. And, you know, just in the process of learning to walk again, hoping one day to go back to being a runner, but feeling very grateful for every single day and grateful that every day I do get to feel better. Thank you to the healthcare system. And a shout out to everyone who may not be in that position, and let's do everything we can to be supporting them.
And I'm so glad that you're doing much better and you're with us because that could have gone the other way. And, it's that empathy that I believe makes healthcare leaders even greater leaders. So I'm excited to see what you do beyond what you've already done with your entrepreneurial career. Talk to us about what inspires your work in healthcare.
Well, I have to tell you the funniest story first, because I think it makes me feel like this is something you'll appreciate and understand. The morning after my car accident, my dad, who's 82, and someone for whom I often serve as the primary caregiver, came into my room, which he doesn't usually do, and stood at the foot of my bed and said, Alex, we have got to write a letter to the CEO of the car company. And we have got to say to them, thank you so much for building this car that saved my daughter's life.
Wow.
And then he goes, wait, no, that's not who the letter goes to. The letter is going to go to the workers on the line. And we're going to send them a picture of you and the car, and you'll be standing by them. But the demolished, like the fact that your car was demolished, but you are okay. And I think in so many ways that's reflective of what we all want to do in the healthcare system, right? Which is we want to thank the people who are doing the work, the people who build the cars that protect us, the people who work in the hospitals, who work in the health systems, who do the work that they do across all of industry. So yeah, I care for my dad, but there was that morning after my car accident, my dad cared for me. So, and so did a bunch of other people, by the way. So my passion, my obsession is to really focus on, love fiercely on, and support in scalable, sustainable ways the 43% of adults across the nation right now who are serving as unpaid caregivers. Because the work that they do is invisible, it's extraordinary. It's really serving as the backbone of our nation and our ability to succeed in every way, shape, or form.
So shout out to everybody that's a caregiver out there.
Shout out.
A huge out, right? Like shout out to you. If you're listening to this, kudos. We love and appreciate you. And Alex, for sure, the work that you're doing now with ARCHANGELS, share a little bit about that. What is it that you guys do? How do you add value to the healthcare ecosystem?
So what we do is incredibly straightforward. I love the Mark Twain quote, "It would have been shorter if I had more time." I'm old and I have worked in this space of understanding that we have to expand the definition of health to include life, because when life goes wrong, health goes wrong. And for many years in my last company, we really boiled it down. We came to this conclusion that maybe the biggest diseases in the US are not just cardiovascular disease or diabetes or respiratory conditions, but actually caregiver stress, financial stress, relationship stress, and workplace stress, which people would now refer to in some ways as the social determinants. And what we really focus on in this next incarnation of Archangels, I feel like we get more and more laser focused on where we think that most extraordinary leverage point is to serve humanity, is that unpaid caregiver. Because if you are an unpaid caregiver, you're going to have financial stress. You're going to have workplace stress. You're going to have relationship stress. But we would also say the work that you're doing is gorgeous. And the single most important thing for us to do is what you just picked up on, right? To find this population, to love on them fiercely, and to reframe unpaid caregivers are not to be pitied. They are to be supported, right? We have to build ecosystems that are so lush with caregiver support that these individuals can't help but be seen. And our platform does that in a ridiculously simple way, because we tried so many other ways and they fail.
If you look across the world, in many countries, I think we're very different. There is this, embedded caregiver that is part of the family, the community. We resort to, nursing homes and hospitals. I think bringing back, and I say bringing back, right? Bringing back this part of how it used to be is key. And I'm glad you're doing it. How are you guys doing that? And talk to us about that.
43% of adults are in this role, but the vast majority of them have no idea that they are, right? In fact, if you use the term caregiver with them, they might even get a little cranky and indignant. And we see that especially with certain populations, right? People will literally, it's like a fist stomping moment. Like, I am not a caregiver. I am. And then it's this incredible, they'll say something like, I'm just a daughter. I'm just a God-fearing person. I'm just a good human. And I think that's one of the things I love so much about this population is they're not taking credit for what they're doing. They're not focused on themselves. They are so externally focused that they don't even recognize the extremely vital role that they're playing. And so what a gift for us to be able to come in and say, hold up. All right, we don't have to use the word caregiver, right? We'll use whatever term you like. We have learned over the years that archangels is the term people love. They'll be like, well, I'll be an archangel. That sounds cool. But the notion is run these campaigns to help people have this aha moment. That it's them. And the campaigns can be cheeky. They can be serious, but they do not use traditional verbiage or imagery. And in that process, once we've captivated that individual's attention, we then ultimately take them on this very quick journey where we're navigating them over to the vast amount of resources that already exist across our country to support this population. They might be hidden under EAPs, employee assistance programs, or in YMCAs, or the area associations on aging, or within the health plan more broadly, or through some state-sponsored or something that's through the government. These resources do exist. They are underutilized. Why are they underutilized? Because people don't realize they're in this role. So our sole reason to exist is to find these humans, love on them fiercely, help them have this aha moment, and then we navigate them over to these resources that already exist. They're not ours. They already exist out there. And in so doing, we create tremendous return for the people who built this stuff. They paid for it and they were like, why is no one using it? And by the way, if you can get people to use it, then people don't quit their jobs, right? One of the things that's gorgeous about unpaid caregivers, work is respite for them. They want to work. And there's a lot of health consequence from being an unpaid caregiver. And if you can get someone connected to resources before those consequences begin to add up, you keep people healthy, you keep them productive, you keep them able to stay in that role of being unpaid caregiver, which then, of course, keeps that person they're caring for out of the hospital, from falling, all the other additional benefits that can.
Who's typically putting these types of resources together? Is it payers? Is it providers? Is it both? Employers?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, Saul, we are shameless hustlers. You have felt that on me already, right? We go through any and every channel possible. And we are currently serving archangels across all 50 states. We just signed with a new state, which I think I'm allowed to say, state of Michigan. So we are marching across the country, partnering with employers, health plans, health systems, CBOs, faith-based leaders, states directly, to use whatever channels they have, whatever resources that they've already invested in, and create that interstitial connection mechanism to find these folks and get them to those resources and keep them healthy and alive.
You've obviously identified a population and underutilized assets or sets of assets, and an opportunity to really serve, by helping get a message out to the people that maybe don't know that they're caregivers.
We all have bad days, Saul. And I can't tell you the number of nights I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, wow, Alex, you suck at everything. And you're behind on everything. And you're not a good mom. And you're not
Oh
doing good,
boy.
you're not a good partner. And the way that I fall back to sleep is I think about the impact that we're having on this population, right? That's what unpaid caregivers do. They always feel guilty. They never give themselves credit. They don't see the value of what they're doing. And so if we can help one person, 10 people, 100, 1,000, 10,000 have that moment like, oh my gosh, it's not that I gained weight because I have no willpower. I didn't go on anti-anxiety medication because I'm weak willed. It's because I have this whole other job called being an unpaid caregiver, and that's
Huh.
intense. And we use the word intensity with great intention, right? Because intensity can be beautiful, intensity of love, intensity of care, and it can be hard, intensity of exhaustion,
Mhm.
right? Intensity of worry. And so the metric that we use in supporting unpaid caregivers is caregiver
Hmm.
intensity. And we put people in the green, yellow, or red, and that gives them a language. And we say, if you're in the red, you need a red phone. We're going to be that red phone for you. We're going to get you over to the resources that can support you.
And thanks for bringing awareness to this topic of caregivers. Hey, I'm excited for health. I'm sure you are too. And you're going to be hosting a fireside chat, and it's going to be with the CEO of Kaiser, Greg Adams. Tell us about
Oh,
that. What we should expect if this goes out before, but if it already happened, what should they expect?
I feel the luckiest to do that. First of all, I've known Kaiser for years. I had a stint living in California. Kaiser was my health insurer. But I think Kaiser sort of pioneered the notion in many ways of what today we call, value-based care. Being in the community, right? Being of the society that you're working to serve and connecting all these dots that otherwise people feel so siloed and isolated. And I had the great, great, great fortune of getting to fireside chat Greg last year. And I can tell you we had 20 minutes. And if I could have had 20 hours, it wouldn't have been enough. That man is so bright, crazy, crazy, crazy sharp. He connects things in his brain that I could never. But there's something else about him that I just adore, which he's warm, he is genuine, he is authentic. He is truly in it for the right reasons. And if you're listening to this and you already saw it, then you felt that on him, his authenticity, his warmth. And if you haven't, then I encourage you to go so that you can see that. I mean, I think people do things for all sorts of reasons. We all know things must be sustainable and scalable. We've got to drive a top and a bottom line impact. But there are people out there who also, at the same time, the primary thing they're serving is humanity, is the well being of humanity. And you will feel that on Greg. And that is why I feel the luckiest that I'll get to fireside chat him up.
I think that's awesome. And yeah, what a great example, right? With Kaiser as a community-based, vertically integrated system that actually is incentivized, right, to do these kinds of things. You know, as you think about the work that you're embarking on with Archangels, going back to that, how do you feel what you guys are doing is different or differentiated, compared to what's out there?
There's a tendency, there's an instinct um, that we need to build more stuff. And I actually think what we need to do is break stuff down because so much exists.
Hmm.
What doesn't exist is the communication mechanism. Again, we use that term interstitial tissue. I don't think we need more stuff. I think we need to better leverage the things that we have. And I think we've got to start in many ways by serving the people who are on that front line, right? Whether that is a healthcare worker, a home care aide, a doctor, a tech, a postal worker, a distribution center. There is a fundamental stress on our nation's infrastructure, most foundational infrastructure. And I think of those individuals as double duty caregivers. right? Like their job is to care for the country in whatever way they are. And a disproportionate amount of them are also unpaid caregivers because the type of mentality that makes you go into a job where you serve others makes you disproportionately the one, I'm feeling on you, Saul. I'm guessing you're a double duty. I'm guessing you have friends and family and neighbors who rely on you.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
guessing by noon today, you will already have fielded at least one phone call from someone saying like, Saul, my uncle just went into the hospital or they're trying to discharge my sister and I don't know what to do. What do I do? Help me.
Uh-huh.
That's being an unpaid caregiver. And to the extent that you and I are doing this interaction right now, you're a paid caregiver because you're trying to get the word out there about how we make more people healthier
Yep.
in cost effective ways. So you're a double duty. Being a double duty doubles your intensity, just so you know. So we got to really take care of you. You got to put your own air mask on before helping others so that we can make sure you stay healthy so you can do this job of going out and serving others. And I feel very strongly, I look forward to the agenda this year at Health because I feel as though there's more and more recognition of the need to be breaking down these barriers, getting rid of these ridiculous silos, changing the language that we use and connecting people directly to the resources that they probably had access to, they just didn't realize, and get rid of all those things that stop that communication from happening that lets the person who is most in need get to the thing that can help them most at that moment.
That's awesome, Alex. Yeah, I love that. This idea of build less because there's already too much up. Just like start removing things, start removing them and get straight to what you need to get to. And yeah, I have, I don't have to like drive or take care of anybody, but I definitely get the calls from my parents, right? And fielding things that way, it may not feel like it. And maybe I'm one of those people that you say don't feel like they are. But maybe I am. And that's an eye opener for me. And to everybody listening, maybe you are too. And now is the time to sort of think about your role in your family, in your community. And there might be some resources out there for you. And don't have any shame. It's great to be able to use those types of resources that Alex and her team are putting out there. You see a lot, and you interface with a lot of different provider organizations, payers. It sounds like as well. What's a tech or trend that you feel is being impactful? And you may want to go the other way with this. There's too much, so talk to us about that.
There is, again, I'm 52. So I've been working in healthcare since I was 21. And when I first got put on, I was working as in a situation, I got put on a case that was
Hmm.
healthcare. And I was like, this is going to be so boring. And I learned so quickly it's not boring because healthcare is really just a different term for humanity, for life, right? And what you're dealing with is you're supporting people in their most foundational elements. And I think the trend that matters the most is I feel as though we are learning as an industry to get closer and closer to that last inch. I won't even say last mile, it's that last inch. And it's not just that I can find you wherever you are, whether that's technology or through a faith-based leader or through a service can get delivered to your house. However it is, I'm finding omni-channel ways to get to you and as importantly, I'm stripping away what can be distractions about who you are to really understand not just who you are, but what do you need, right? I might have right now, I'm an unpaid caregiver. I'm so in the red. I have so much stuff that's going on right now with some family health situations. If you looked at my profile, you might think, oh, we need to make sure she's still taking care of her leg and her broken leg and her broken wrist. And she also, I'm sure all sorts of chronic conditions waiting to happen. And of course, I've been to the doctor because unpaid caregivers don't go to the doctor. But if you really thought about where I was, what I really need support with is serving in my role as unpaid caregiver. There are some navigation questions I need support with. There are some things I need to be able to get to people that I love. If the system could understand, it could get to me and help me with what I need to be able to stay in my job, stay productive, stay feeling good about myself, resiliency, purpose, all those things are connected. Then I'm going to cost the system a lot more money. And as importantly, because I think we often focus on cost savings, as importantly, I'm going to bring money back to the economy, right?
Yeah.
That's going to enable me to do my job, make money, and push things back. And I think when people think about serving unpaid caregivers right now, they often think about serving unpaid caregivers with their from a how do we reduce the cost of the unpaid caregiver? I would like a car manufacturer, if you're listening to this, how would you sell your cars better to unpaid caregivers? Hey, you build furniture? Well, guess what? When we moved my dad back,
Uh-huh.
we had to redo our house, right? That's a huge market opportunity. So let's start thinking about these populations and the lives they live, not just as opportunities for people to do things more efficiently and save money, but for us to do a better job marching and making new ground in new markets by understanding who people are, what makes them tick.
Yeah. No,
And really, the most foundational element of humanity is being that unpaid caregiver. So start there, period.
it's a new way of thinking. And I think we're in this time where there's finally a chance to get to value based care. And I think recognizing the unpaid caregiver as part of the equation is part of value based care. So, as we talk about policy and things that need to happen, like what highlights would you speak about there? Reimbursement and things like that.
If you look at CMS right now and Mina Seshamani, director of Medicare, and you look at Biden's executive order to support unpaid caregivers, and you look at the Raise Family Caregiver Act presented to Congress with Archangel data in it, by the way,
Oh, nice.
what you will see is a real recognition that we did a study in collaboration with Nirav Shah, an incredible physician out of Stanford. And we were working with providers and we were able to get data that showed, published by Catalyst, 80% of doctors believe caregivers need a seat at the table, but only 20% of doctors believe that they do. So I want to give a shout out to Medicare that just put together an opportunity for doctors to get paid, for the health system to get paid for the training that they can provide or the system can provide to someone who is caring for the health of someone else as an unpaid caregiver. So that's a very recent, I think that's a month-old example of how regulatory policy and advocacy is right now very actively saying, oh goodness, instead of getting stressed about this, let's get excited. Here's all the stuff we can do and the impact it can have by addressing the 43% of adults in the country right now in this role.
That's amazing. And kudos to you and the organization you've put together that contributed to that change.
We feel the luckiest.
That's huge. And these types of movements are key. I learned recently watching the I know it's been out for a while, but my wife and I started watching the Blue Zones. And that last episode where Singapore has they put together a policy that's called a proximity to your family like fund, and if you stay within a certain number of miles from your family, the government gives you dollars for buying a house. You gotta make these types of investments and policy if this type of care is going to be sustainable. And I'm excited to hear that those moves are being made. I wasn't aware of any of this, folks. I don't know if you were, but it is definitely exciting to hear that these types of moves are being made by CMS, and that to have companies like Archangels providing the infrastructure and ideas and ways to get the content out to people. Love that. Look, super excited for the future, especially with a brain like yours on it, Alex. What closing thought would you leave us with? And then, if anybody else wants to get in touch with you to learn more, where can they find you?
So my closing thought would be what you picked up on so quickly, right? Hopefully people are listening or taking that moment to be like, oh my gosh, that is me, right? I am in this role and I have got to give myself grace. And I need my own air mask on before helping others. And there are resources that exist, and I'm going to seek those things out, right? Whether it's help with navigation or finding Meals on Wheels or home care aid or some gorgeous technology that we can be applying, because there are so many that exist. There's another component too. So I always think of it in two ways, right? Put your own air mask on, make sure you're okay and you can survive. But then I also think of the analogy of drowning. And when my kids were babies, my mom sent me every little piece of article, data, statistic around be careful of kids drowning. And drowning doesn't always look like drowning. And the idea when you think of someone drowning is they're waving their arms in the air like, I'm drowning, I'm drowning. And that's actually precisely not what happens. What happens is humans, when they are drowning, their bodies know to conserve energy and they get very still and their arms go straight up or their arms go straight down and they actually sink quietly under the water. And my feeling about unpaid caregivers is that's the analogy. Unpaid caregivers are not standing around screaming, I'm an unpaid caregiver and I need help. In fact, if you ask them, can I help you? They'll say, no, no, I got this. It almost feels too exhausting to even think of where to start, which is one of the reasons why we invented the platform that we do. But what I would start to say to anyone listening right now, take a moment, love on yourself for the care that you deliver to others, because I guarantee you do. And then number two, let's all be lifeguards, right? Take a second, scan the horizon, look for somebody who's drowning, even though it doesn't look like they're drowning. And please do not ask them, how can I help? Just help. Figure out what you can do to support them. Go sit with their mom for a half an hour on a Saturday so they can go for a walk, whatever it is, right? Just figure out a way to help. And then the last thing I would say is I hope everybody, in whatever way they are bringing value to the world, because they are, realizes we are in a care economy, right? This is, when we talk about the trends, it is about how we care for each other. And I think that will make the difference between the sustainability of our country overall, is how well we do.
I can't thank you enough for the fresh approach. Super to sort of be learning from you. And hey, if anybody wants to get in touch or learn more about what you guys are up to, how can they find you and how can they research Archangels?
That's open. I always forget that part. I always get in trouble because I get so excited.
No
So you can
worries.
go to archangels.me. You can, play with us on social. So Twitter or X, we're at
Yeah,
Archangels. Or I think our Insta is archangels.me. Just go to archangels.me or send an email, info@archangels.me, ARCHANGELS.me.
amazing. Folks, you know how it goes. All the resources we talk about on our podcast go straight to the show notes. So no worries about writing it down. Check those out. Click on them, use them because you've got to take action. Do not stop at just listening. If something that Alex said today or that I said today inspired you, take action. And Alex, I want to thank you for taking action and being on our podcast today. I'm excited to see you at Health
I
as
can't wait.
yeah, and I'm excited for your coffee side chat or fireside chat. And so beautiful to talk to you and looking forward to staying in touch.
Thank you, Saul. I can't wait.